Well, and that's hard. And I
Hmm.
described to somebody at one time, there's so many different races living on this planet.
Exactly.
You have some good people, you got
Hmm.
some bad people, and you got terrible. I wouldn't want to put them in a category where, where we'd go hunting. Like I say, I feel like maybe they here for our own good. They just pick a few of us to experiment on.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the humans do.
Yeah.
They experiment with monkeys and guinea pigs and all. They say they're doing it for the good of the people, but they inject them with diseases and everything else.
Well,
But a few has to sacrifice for the others to get the benefit of it.
well, then my question is, if the aliens are doing it for the good of us, when do we get the benefit from this good? How many years of abductions and experiments has got to go on before we reap the benefits?
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. But like I say, I didn't want to put them in a bad category where people would
Yeah.
be afraid of them and want to shoot them and all this. Well, it won't do no good because they got the upper hand. But I feel like maybe now there is some good. I've been watching a little of the History Channel here lately, and I feel like maybe we are getting a little bit of good out of them now through technology and stuff. So,
Well, one of the theories is that our government is made an agreement to let them abduct us and do experiments for trade with technology and stuff like that. You think that's possible?
well, I heard that before, and it makes a lot of sense that they might have made a deal because politicians, I can't stand politicians. They all crooked. I don't like none of them.
Right.
But, we kind of have to have them a little bit because people's crazy too that they got taken over. But I think that's probably a possibility that they could. But why don't they volunteer themselves to go and let them experiment with?
Well, that's a good point. I doubt that will ever happen, though. Unfortunately,
No,
right?
I doubt it.
Yeah.
I'd volunteer some of them.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Now, that was in 73, and when was the other one? 92, did you say?
93.
93. So 20 years apart. Now, do you think there was any other abductions that you know of or maybe think there might have been or that you don't know that could have happened after that or in between?
Well, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they were on a mission both times. Now, I don't know if I just happened to be in the right place at the wrong time.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think the first time it was premeditated, they planned to take you, or you were just in the right place?
I don't know. I feel like maybe I was in the right place.
Mm-hmm.
Or they might have just planned on taking me.
Right.
It could have been.
Now, another question I have for you, when that initial abduction in 73, do you feel they came from the sky, or do you think they might have come up out of the river or the ocean, or or do you remember?
Well, I don't know. I know they could fly in the sky, but then again, and this is a Coast Guard report just shortly after this, you had 6 Coast Guard personnel was called out to investigate something in the water. And they was actually, and this is documented, a craft in the water, and they took a pole and they bumped it. They was 6 Coast Guard personnel on the boat, and this documented in their archives and stuff now.
And was that back in 73?
This was in 73, just right here, close to where we was abducted. Now, some of the eyewitnesses that was up there, and this made me kind of curious, but one of them at least said that she's seen this thing in the water. And, so it's a possibility they could use the water to get in and out and then go back up in the sky. I don't know. It's just hard to believe.
And there's been a lot of reports that I'm curious if you probably couldn't do it now. It's 40-some years, but if you could look at some radar hits from the airports, local airports, or even from the ships out there, that'd be something if you could match something up. And speaking of the witnesses that came forward, you've talked to them. What did they say about that night?
Well, every one of them seen the craft. One of them was a crane operator at a shipyard, actually where we worked at, was working over. And if you look straight across the river under the bridge, you could see where we were. And he actually seen it come down. And he was busy working with a man under him. He didn't want to hurt nobody. Or he said he would have went and called the law or something. And then the other one was across the river. And she's the one that actually seen something in the water and related it back to the water. Now, a lot of people criticized some of these witnesses for coming forward right now. But let me tell you, they didn't come forward on their own. We actually hunted them down. Fox News did an interview with me. One of them's daughter made a comment under there. My mother seen this when it happened, and it has bothered her all of her life. Well, we took this comment and actually tracked down her daughter through this, got her information, and tracked her down, and she didn't want to really come forward. Her husband said, people's going to think you crazy, and he told her that all of her life. And I said, please, for me, please just tell me about it. I was starving for information.
Oh, yeah.
And she told me what she seen and all, and Philip and I actually talked her into coming out as a witness. So they can't nobody say she came out on her own. She didn't do this for no fame or nothing else. She did this because she's a real caring person. And she actually broke down and cried when she seen me. And her husband was with her, and he said, I've always told her people's going to think she's crazy if she tells anybody. But she was taking him to work. He was laying in the back seat, waiting for the boat, and that's when she seen it. And she is so credible. And it wasn't just one witness last night. We got 5 witnesses on the line, that actually seen something and seen them pretty close. So that made me feel good that they came out. And, I tell everybody, go to their defense real quick. Don't criticize them. They're not after their 5 minutes of pain. I've actually talked them into coming out, so you leave them alone.
Right. And, people don't realize she's had that built up in her, that event that happened that night, all along, too.
She said she always wondered what happened to me. Charlie stayed in the news media all the time, so it was easy to keep up with him. But when I disappeared in 73, I disappeared and tried to stay out of the public eye all I could.
Right.
So she said that she had always wondered what happened to me, always wanted to meet me, and felt so bad and so sorry. Actually, when we met, she sat there and cried. I almost made me cry. I mean, I didn't want to see her that upset. But it was a very emotional meeting when we first met. And it still is every time we meet. I've met her 2 or 3 times after that. And we've become not close friends, but we've become friends where, I could pick the phone up and call. She can call me. But she's going through some hardship on her own right now. So I try not to bother her with this.
Now, do you think there's maybe some other witnesses out there that you haven't contacted yet, or have you heard of some and you're still trying to maybe research and find them?
There is no doubt in my mind that it is. And if they are, I wish they would come forward. They can get a hold of me or Philip Mantle, either one. And he's easier to get a hold of than I am. But I would give anything if they would come forward and nothing else, just tell us about it. Because I'm looking for closure. I'm looking for answers right now. And this hadn't been an easy thing to deal with. and I'm almost sure it's going to get harder than it's already. I went from, I've had 2 open heart surgeries and a stroke. So there's no doubt in my mind that I'm alive for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
There's no doubt in my mind that this book came forward when it did. There's a reason there for some reason,
That's
God
right.
only knows what it is. So I went from doing what I wanted to do to getting out and going to these conferences, doing these podcasts and these radio shows and TV shows and all on a daily basis. I mean, it's not like I just come home and do nothing. When I'm here, I am steady busy. Today is the first day in over a year that I actually took time to go fishing. And I went from fishing 5 to 6 days a week to once a year now, maybe. Mm-hmm. So, I've given my life up like I know it. And there's no money in this.
No, and I think it's very therapeutical for you to be able to share your story and maybe educate and help somebody else that may be going through this very same thing and they haven't come forward. So I think that's a beautiful thing what you're doing, actually.
Well, during these conferences, I love going to these conferences just to meet the people. You'll be surprised at people that have an experience that won't talk to nobody about them, that come up and want to privately talk, and we'll sit there for hours and just visit and talk because I know what they're going through. I've been there. I've kept my feelings bundled up. So, I like getting out and meeting the people, but I'm just going to do this so long that I'm going back to my old life.
Right, I hear you.
I'm building my houseboat now. I'm going totally off grid. They can count on that.
I don't blame you. And, I got to say, Calvin, you're an inspiration to me, and I think I feel for everything you've been through. I only wish you the best of luck in everything you do, buddy. Unfortunately, we're about out of time. I want to give you a couple minutes here. Share any websites or anything you want to share or promote. Go ahead, bud.
The website is the Flying Disc Publishing Company, but the book is Pascagoula, The Closest Encounter, My Story, Calvin Parker, and you can order it through Amazon. That's the easiest way to get a hold of it. And if nothing else, I want everybody to get this book and read through it. It's going to shed a lot of light on it. If you have a doubt in your mind, read the book. It's got all the evidence you need in it.
And especially the chapter you were talking about where they regressed you for about the 92 incident.
This is a deal that I could take this book and go to a court of law, and it would actually stand up in a court of law. Eyewitnesses go a long ways. I've had polygraph tests, voice stress tests. I've had every known test to man almost. And people ask about the drinking. I've had to blow up them alcohol things right when this happened. So I've had blood tests. I mean, Philip and I tried to cover everything possible in the book. Anything that would throw a doubt into somebody's mind, we tried to cover that. And we did it with actual facts.
Mm-hmm. Well, our time is cut short. I want to thank you, Calvin. You've been an awesome, awesome guest. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And I wish you the total best. And you can get a hold of me anytime. And have a great weekend, buddy.
Okay, thank you, bud.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Wow. What an amazing, bone-chilling story we just heard, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. And I want to thank Calvin. He was an awesome guest. Just want to remind everybody, hey, you get a chance, go to the website, www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and look it over, check our pictures out, upcoming guests and everything. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Next week, my guest will be Ronald Moreland, and we're going to be talking Bigfoot. And I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank Calvin Parker. You're an amazing man. Good night, everybody.